At Wildlife Conservation Network, we believe there is hope for even the most threatened species. And we know it will take a community working together to make that hope a reality. That's why we invest in local leadership and conservation around the world, support a network of partners with bold, effective solutions, and establish wildlife funds to save a threatened species across its entire habitat. We connect donors with the conservation work they support and ensure 100% of their money goes to the work they care about. Together, we are building a world where people and wildlife can coexist and thrive.
WCN is perhaps the most extraordinary and successful conservation organization anywhere.
Join us in creating a future for wildlife.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. I am really pleased many of you resisted Charlie's cheap ploy to get you to move from one room to another. I think you made the right choice. I'm Collomb. I'm the CEO for the Wildlife Conservation Network. It's a real pleasure to see so many of you here this morning. Yesterday, we had an event already, and I said, we like to keep things engaging and interactive, so the same thing holds true today. It's pretty early. People might still be waking up, drinking coffee. So I want to see, quick show of hands. How many of you were with us last night? Just raise your hand. Okay, wow, so many of you. So some of this might be a little repetitive, but there are a couple of new people, so bear with me. We'll go through it all. We really want you to engage with us. The day is designed for that. It's designed for interaction amongst all of you supporters, with a conservationist, with our team. So take advantage of that. We've got lots of breaks built in, and there's going to be food and drinks provided. So do not be shy. If you don't know somebody, you can always go up to them and say, hey, what brings you here? What species do you like? What conservation groups have you visited? You all have something in common. Because we're really all united by this passion for wildlife. Yesterday, I mentioned that I don't need to talk about all the depressing things, the loss of biodiversity, the effects of climate change, the atrocities of war that are ripping through communities at the moment. And it's really, really hard to make sense of all that stuff. And especially this week, I know many people are struggling. And I hope that today we can kind of provide a path for hope, re-spark that energy, the belief in the power of people, the belief in the power that we can actually do good for the planet. And it's not just going to be the people on stage presenting, all these great conservationists who are coming from all over the world. It's also their teams, it's the communities they work with, it's all of you who are here. A few weeks ago, I was in Kenya with a number of African community-based conservationists, and I heard this poem that really touched me, so I want to share it with you. You're not going to get that with Charlie, I can tell you that much. But I am French, so there's a bit of sensitivity to it. So this poem is untitled. I believe it was credited to a woman named Beth Strano. There's no such thing as a safe space. We exist in the real world. We all carry scars and have caused wounds. This space seeks to turn down the volume of the outside world and amplify voices that have to fight to be heard elsewhere. This space will not be perfect. It will not always be what we wish it to be, but it will be our space together, and we will work on it side by side. So we're not going to solve all of the world's problems, but many of the problems that we face are interrelated, and we have to work together to try to get through them. Really, I view wildlife as this bridge that can be that wedge into all those other issues that can bring us together and create solutions for communities on the front line, whether it's here in North America or in the four corners of the globe. Bring communities together and try to interconnect all these solutions to these problems. So at WCN, our mission is to protect endangered wildlife by supporting conservationists who ensure people and wildlife coexist and thrive. We do this through three core strategies. We invest in local conservation organizations. We invite those conservation organizations to become our partners. We've got 22 to date. You've seen that network grow. Thanks to your generosity, we've been able to support those organizations with over $110 million over the past 20 years. So that's a huge accomplishment, the power of individual pooling their funds together to have this kind of impact. We invest in local rising wildlife leaders. At different points in their career, we try to support these individuals because we need people to get involved in conservation. We need people to care. We need that to be anchored and rooted in the countries where those animals are located. We need people who understand the subtleties of working in those communities with the local politics, with the local culture. And sadly, many systemic and historical factors have led to an underrepresentation of indigenous knowledge, of Black voices, of women in conservation. And we need to include all those voices in conservation so that we can have a stronger impact. The future of conservation must really include as many people as possible. It's a really long journey, but that journey needs to be accelerated, and we're happy to be on that path. And when appropriate, we leverage the collective impact of multiple wildlife projects to reverse the decline of species in crisis through our wildlife funds. So to date, over the past 10 years, because we only started the Elephant Crisis Fund 10 years ago, we've deployed over $90 million to these 5 funds, the Elephant Crisis Fund, Lion Recovery Fund, Pangolin Crisis Fund, Rhino Recovery Fund, and the California Wildlife Program here in California. Through these funds, we've reached over 200 grantees, which is really an expansion of a number of conservationists that we're able to work with. And ideally, we're trying to create synergies across all of these conservationists so that they can all learn from each other. So through all these strategies, we have a truly global reach. As you know, we're highly effective about getting money to the ground in the hands of conservationists, and we'll cover that in a little bit. But throughout all this growth, we're driven by this desire for impact. We're not doing this just to get bigger and bigger. We're doing this because there's a need. The planet is unhealthy, and these conservationists are able to provide solutions. So we're driven by impact. We want to learn from what we do at all levels, from the conservationists, but also to how we interact with you. So you often get surveys. Please send us your feedback. We read it. We take it into account. We're driven by this sense of service, to listening to your needs, listening to the needs of conservationists, of the communities we work with, trying to build relationships that are really anchored in trust and mutual respect. I think that's what fosters more diversity as we move forward. On a sense of collaboration, because we believe that we achieve so much more when we don't care who gets the credit. We try to approach things as partnership rather than ownership. And I think that's a really important way in terms of trying to have a greater impact that our conservationists also carry. And we believe in integrity, especially financial efficiency, transparency, accountability. As you know, we guarantee that 100% of funds that are designated for a particular species will get to that species. And I know it's only one measure, but we're really proud of having a perfect score on Charity Navigator that ranks over 8,000 different charities. So it's one measure, but the real work is going to be shown on stage. It's the impact of all these conservationists. To date, thanks to your generosity, we've deployed $294 million. I hope we cross the 300 million mark pretty soon and keep going. There are more and more groups that can do more and more work. Every time I go out in the field and I meet more of these organizations, I am just inspired by the opportunity to be able to work with more of those organizations, introduce them to more people. I think a big part of what everybody can do is to bring people to the expos, introduce them to WCN, introduce them to conservationists, try to make this pie bigger. We need more people to care and get engaged. And it's not just about animals. I mean, I don't know how many of you have these conversations with friends and say, oh, I'm going to the Wildlife Conservation Expo, or I support such and such group. And they say, oh, okay, it's nice. You like elephants or you like orangutans. But it really isn't just about elephants or orangutans. It's about those communities' needs. It's about investing in kids' education, in women empowerment. It's about creating healthy landscapes, creating healthy communities. It's about being able to expand the conservation footprint so that we can achieve these 30 by 30 goals of having more of our planet connected and be more resilient to the effects of climate change. And it really all starts with choices that we as individuals make. And it's choices that we make here in North America, but also in Rwanda, in Peru, in Borneo, all over the world. People are making choices, whether it's somebody deciding to make it their career, whether it's somebody deciding to write a check, whether it's somebody deciding to put up a beehive fence to protect against elephant incursion. There's so many different ways in which people can get involved in wildlife conservation and try to contribute to the betterment of communities and foster this world where people and wildlife can coexist and thrive. Today, you're going to have the opportunity to connect your passion to the passion of all these conservationists. So I'm going to run through these slides. It can get confusing and overwhelming because I know we want to be in two places at once and we can't, but this is going to be recorded. You could always watch it later. We are right now standing on the Presidio stage. Over in that room, don't go now, is Charlie on the Embarcadero stage. You're going to hear about orangutans here, and then you'll hear about Bornean elephants. You'll hear about dolphins, this way, dolphins and cheetah on the other side. We'll have some breaks in between, but then we'll hear about Ethiopian wolves on this stage and brown-headed spider monkeys, which is an organization that we are considering and looking at. They do great work. It's going to be their first time on stage. They've presented virtually, so you might be a bit familiar with their work. On the other side, we'll have Saiga Conservation Alliance and an opportunity to hear about the work of various of the funds, the Elephant Crisis Fund, Lion Recovery Fund, Pangolin Crisis Fund, and Rhino Recovery Fund, offering second chances for those species. We'll continue here with another first-timer live on stage, talking about Hirola and giraffe conservation in northern Kenya. Then we'll hear about bats in Nigeria. On that other side, we'll keep on hearing about the funds through these second chances. And then we'll have an opportunity on this stage to talk about empowering rising leaders, so this investment in this emerging generation of conservationists. A number of our conservationists have gone through these programs, so you will hear from Peter Lalumpa, Jessica Carrere, and Farina. Then we'll hear about sharks and rays. On the other side, we'll talk about how we can live within Earth's means. It takes lots of different cross-sectoral approaches. We'll have a pleasure of hearing from Gladys of Conservation Through Public Health, David Kuvawoga from Painted Dog Conservation, and Alex Moore from Spectacle Bear Conservation. And then we'll have a full-on presentation with Alex and Robin on spectacle bears. Tired yet? Then we continue with a session focusing on kind of healing habitats and hearing about the work of the Rwanda Wildlife Conservation Alliance, working on cranes. Beth is going to come and join us and talk about their work with Okapi in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Sam Williams from the Macaw Recovery Network will talk about the importance of their work for healing habitats in Costa Rica. And then we'll transition into the work of Proyecto TT and their efforts to protect the cotton-top tamarins. On the other side, kind of similar themes, but a full-on presentation by the Grevi Zebra Trust in northern Kenya, and then the Nyasa Lion Project in Mozambique. And then the day will be over. We'll be happy to have spent some great time together, and we can go and be inspired and do something for conservation together. Your generosity and your trust has been really appreciated. It's what allowed us to have the impact that we've had over the past 20 years. It's what will allow us to have impact that we want to have over the next 20 years. As you know, 100% of funds that are designated for a species will make it to that species. We make it very simple to donate. You can take your phone. I saw a couple up. That's great. Scan the code. No donations too small. No donations too big. People laughed yesterday when I said that. It isn't a joke. Many of these conservation projects can really absorb large amounts of funding, but don't ever forget the power of a $1,000 donation. It can make a huge difference to community members, to an anti-poaching unit, to a kids' education camp. Everything really, really counts. I want to thank our sponsors, the Disney Conservation Fund from the Walt Disney Company and the Gordon Betty Moore Foundation. Their partnership also extends beyond the Expo. They've been longtime partners of ours and will be partners of ours into the future. And they're too committed to conservation. By the way, if your company or organization wants to become a sponsor, talk to one of us. We're happy to have more sponsorship for the Expo. And I want to thank the WCN staff. They're probably a little bit less ragged today than they were yesterday, with fewer people. So yesterday I said we're going to skip a round of applause, but today let's take the time and give them a big round of applause. So enjoy the day, take advantage of it, talk to each other, talk to the conservationist, use us as staff. We're here to help you connect to your wildlife conservation interest, to your broader interests for philanthropy and anything related to communities. And if you don't know who to talk to, come and see us and we'll happily connect you.